person, James Leahy, Public Service. At this time, we're going to be utilizing Councilor Mayor Murphy and also Councilor Graney to make sure we have a quorum. So can I make a motion that we call this meeting to order, or can one of you two?
Make a motion to call the meeting to order.
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Ayes have it.
Aye.
All right. So we have a pretty straightforward agenda tonight. It could be a lengthy one. It all depends. But what we're going to do is we're going to do two orders first, and the first one being if somebody can make a motion to take item number one. Well, first let me just say that we're doing a Zoom. Governor Baker allowed us to do Zoom meetings back in I think April of last year, and so just put that to note, Jeffrey. But if one of you two can make a motion to take item
move to take item one off the table.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Let's have it. Okay, so item number one, it's an order from Councilor McGee, letter appointing Miss Patricia Devine, 58 Magnolia Ave, to serve as a member on the commission for the Department of Public Works. Ms. Devine will replace Mr. Quinn and will serve a 3-year term. The said term will expire February 1st, 2024. All right, Patty. Where's Patty? You're no stranger to any of us. You're on mute. So take your mute off. And so basically what, as you know, just give us a little background about yourself and say how you're going to be, an intricate part of this committee. And
okay.
Go from there.
I'm assuming I'm off mute now. First of all, thank you very much for having me before the committee. And I'd certainly like to thank, at the time, Acting Mayor McGee for appointing me as a DPW commissioner. I think most of you do know me, and I did send out my resume to each one of you to make sure you knew my background, my experience, certainly union experience, managerial experience, and of course, city council experience. I did zoom in on a DPW meeting the other night, which was extremely interesting. And there's certainly a lot going on in that department, lots of different things between the sewer commission and the DPW commission. So I'm eager to learn a lot of things that are fairly new to me, but I'm a quick learner and I've been around for quite some time. So I think it'll be okay. One thing I did notice, it seems like it's very difficult, and this is no criticism of the DPW, but if you were to look on holyoke.org and look toward the site for the DPW, it's extremely hard to find current minutes. I think it's important that the public is able to find those minutes strictly by, zooming in on their particular page. And the last minutes that I could see were from, I think, July 13th, 2020. So I did ask for the minutes from the previous meeting, and I did get those, but I think I'm going to ask for them for the last 6 months. And I think and again, no criticism, but I'm just wondering that maybe a refresher course in public meetings and open meeting laws, not that they're, not doing that, but I think that in order for the public to know what's going on, they need to revamp their page on the city website. And I'm looking forward to working with them.
Absolutely agree with you. Okay, I see that we're joined with Councilor LISI and also Councilor Hernandez. Welcome. And we also have other councilors as well. I see Joe McGivern's here with us. And that is it, I believe. So having said that, do any councilors on the committee have any questions?
Yes, I would like to speak, Councilor Leahy.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to give my firm support to Ms. Devine. She's been around this city. She knows the city inside and out. She's a great Hoyoker, conscientious, does her homework, and will be a very welcome addition to the DPW commissioners. So I enthusiastically support the nomination and will certainly vote for her come Tuesday night.
Thank you, Howie.
Thank you.
Just to let everybody know, Councilor Murphy and Councilor Graney were the two other councilors that made up the committee just for this one order, but we have our other two. So Councilor LISI, go ahead.
Thank you, and thanks, Patty, for stepping up in this moment. One question that I have based on our conversation last night in Ordinance Committee, we were discussing the Sewer Enterprise Fund. And it continues to run in the red, and it's in part because of the inability to set rates that actually reflect the user fees, or the cost rather. The user fees are not actually keeping pace with the cost of operating the sewer treatment plant. And we have a number of CSOs that we've taken on. And so, you know, the debt service is sort of being rolled into the cost of operating the sewer system. And, you know, the idea has come up again to return control of setting the sewer rate over to the DPW commission. And I just was wondering if you have an opinion on that one way or the other.
Well, the other night when I did listen to their meeting and I zoomed in on their meeting, they did discuss that. And I also listened to the ordinance meeting last night. I agree that it should be put back under the commissioners. And I also liked what Acting Mayor Murphy had to say about possibility getting some COVID money to offset whatever rate might have to be increased because of the pandemic. So I definitely think it should go back to the commission. It was probably looked upon more of a political thing when we were all counselors, but now I think the time is to let the experts do it, as long as, like Counselor Murphy said, that we really watch for, and I think it was you, Rebecca, that may have brought it up, that we watch it for a year to make sure that we don't bombard people with a huge increase in their rates. Mm-hmm. So I do agree that it should go back to them.
Great. Thank you so much, Patty.
You're welcome.
Great. Anybody else have any other questions, comments? Joe, Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Patty, I just wanted to chime in and say thank you. And I don't know what it is about retirement, but everybody just seems to come out of retirement sooner or later. And serving with you and knowing your background, you've got a great resume to do this job. And welcome aboard. And thank you for serving.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Do I see any other hands? Okay. All right, Patty. So you know the drill. So what happens now, our next city council meeting, we'll bring this up to the full city council, and we'll vote on it then. Having said that, do you have any questions for any of us here tonight?
No, I think that it's important that people are watching you and that you're on Zoom, even though you can't be in the city hall. But I do think it's important that when there's a meeting of other departments, that they are noticed, you know, right away on their website. And again, no criticism of the DPW, but I think the open meeting law need to be refreshed in that department so that everybody knows what's going on. And I certainly will report back to the council if they have any questions that I can answer. And I am looking forward to it. As you know, on my resume, my dad worked for the DPW. So I think that he's up there wishing me a lot of luck. And I'm very proud to come and be on this commission.
Thank you, Pam.
Yeah,
thank you.
It's obviously a very extremely important commission as well. So having said that, I think we still have Councilor Murphy and Councilor Graney for this order. So one of you two make an order motion.
Make a motion that the nomination be referred positively back to the full council.
Second.
That we approve. I amend that motion that we approve the nomination of Patty Devine.
Second that.
And I'll second it. And I'll second it.
Okay. You second your own motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good meeting.
You as well. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. I have to figure out how to. Oh, I see.
Feel free to stay on. It's going to be a great meeting.
Hang around, Patty.
I'll stay on.
Yeah, just mute yourself.
Okay.
All right. So item number 2. Can I hear a motion? Now we have Councilor LISI and his Councilor Hernandez. And the great thing is you guys are right next to each other in the boxes, which makes it easy for me. All right. So can one of you guys make a motion and take item number 2 off?
I'll make a motion to take up item number 2.
Second.
All right. Great. All in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. All right. So this one.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Are Councilor Murphy and myself, are we still part of the quorum?
No. So we absolutely appreciate your attendance and your help tonight, but you guys can stay. You can stand down.
Okay, I was just wondering, we have to do
You have to leave.
protocol. Protocol is very important,
All right, sounds good. All right, so number 2, this is a letter appointing Mr. Brian Smith, 48 Holy Family Road, to serve as a member of the retirement board for the City of Holyoke, the great City of Holyoke. Mr. Smith will replace Bellamy Schmidt and will serve a 3-year term. His said term will expire on January 1st, 2024. Okay, so do we have Mr. Schmidt here? Oh, there he
No,
is.
it's Brian Smith.
Smith. Yeah.
Good. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Brian. Okay. Your background kind of confused me. I wasn't sure what was happening over there.
Yeah.
But, so, Brian, welcome back. You're probably certainly not. I think everybody on the screen knows who you are, and you've been through this before. So let's just go through a background and tell us why you want to become back here with the City of Holyoke and that sort of thing.
Well, hello everybody. It is good to be back. Yeah, I was city auditor. I was the ex officio member of the voting member of the Holyoke Retirement Board for almost 26 years. I left there 7 years ago when I retired, and we just had our first meeting since I came back just last week, and it was like old home week. Nothing really changed in terms of which is actually a good thing because that means that things are moving along the way they're supposed to on a scheduled basis. I know 3 of the other 4 members already. It's what I know. It's what I did for such a long time, and I just feel as though I could continue to be an asset in the years ahead.
How many years were you the auditor for?
About 25 and a half, I think. Yeah.
That's excellent. Any count, Joe, Councilor McGivern, I see his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome home, Magic Man. Good to
Thank
see
you, Joe.
I was going to be funny and ask if you had any experience in this area, but you already beat me to that line. So I think you're a great. I know you'll be a great asset to the retirement board, and certainly as you did serve for the city for the 26 years. We miss you greatly, Brian. There's and I don't want to say anything. I'll say this carefully, but our retirement board director is Cheryl Dugree. Has got a tremendous amount of experience, and I think a lot of us worked with her over the years and know that. And I know she's going to be around for a while, but somewhere down the road, all these people that retire. How do you replace a retirement director? Does the commissioners do it, or is it the mayor?
Yeah, it would be a commissioner issue from my recollection. Yes.
Okay, and I take it there's a criteria that you would look for, experience that you look for in any type of replacement.
Most likely. I mean, I haven't actually. Well, Cheryl was already there for a number of years and kind of worked her way up through the ranks to end up becoming our current director. But if we ever needed to go outside, then there would be a search conducted with with specific criteria. Yes, whether it be investment experience. We'd like to we obviously I think, and I'm only one member, but I would like to see some specific experience with a pension system, whether it be a private one or a Massachusetts one, because even if it's a private one, they would still have to know the rules and regulations and laws of the Commonwealth. So yeah, there would be some very specific criteria that we would be looking at, and it would be a very formal search if need be. We're, like you say, though, we're hoping that Cheryl's going to be there for a while, because
I'm sure she will be. I wasn't trying to start any rumors.
Yeah.
Brian, just real quick, anything new on the unfunded liability? Are we going in the right direction? Do we have to take some steps?
Well, we're still scheduled. Well, actually, it's gone out a couple more years since I left. I think that when I left, it was going to be 2030. funded as of, I think it's 2034, and now I think it's 2036. You can't go out any farther than 2040. So I don't think that there's really any reason to go out any further than 2036 at this point. And the funding schedule is set pretty well. It'll get revamped every couple of years, actuarially. I think I haven't looked specifically at to dive into it very deeply, but I think it's around the mid 60s right now, 65, 66, 68%, something like that. No, I don't think it's up as high as 68. It might be 64 to 66% funding right now. But like I said, we're on schedule to be fully funded by 2036. And if we can continue to have good returns each year, which I've seen that we have the last few years, fortunately, we can eat into that a little bit more, keep the appropriations to for the city and the other contributing departments down to a minimum, or at least on whatever the scheduled amount is, just not have to increase that in the future. We're going in the right direction. It's certainly not something that happens overnight. I mean, everybody's dealing with, with these same things, except for those communities that, excuse me, that have had, a lot of money to begin with. They, and a lot of them too are a little bit smaller. So, if you have a lot of money and a smaller workforce, then, you can fund it a lot faster, unlike our community.
Thank you, and well said. Sounds like some pretty good news, but sincerely, thank you for serving and welcome home.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
1 second, Councilor Graney. We have Councilor LISI in queue.
Thank you. Brian, thank you so much for being with us this evening and also for taking on the role as a part of the retirement board. You're talking a lot in detail about what you would be doing and what you would be looking at. And I just wonder, I think it would be beneficial for folks at home to just get a broad overview. If you could explain, at like, 3,600, foot view of what the retirement board does so that folks at home can understand it a little bit better. We would appreciate that.
Wow. Well, we all of the city employees are required to be members of the retirement system. They all contribute to that retirement system as well. It's not just the city that pays in. The retirement, the employees contribute anywhere between, and I think the range, again, I've been away from it for a little while, but I think the range is between right now probably 6 and 9%, depending on when you came into the system. So it's participants in the retirement system, we do not participate with Social Security, so we're not paying into Social Security. So there's no double dipping there or anything like that. If Social Security would be is only paid if they had other service and met all of the a number of other requirements over the years to qualify for any Social Security at all. That doesn't happen too often for the long termers, and in particular for short termers, that may have come in. They may come in their 30s or 40s. They've probably had 10 quarters or more of Social Security, so they would get some of that as well. But generally speaking, all you're going to get is what the retirement system will allow, and it's all actuarially determined. How much you pay in, how much the city pays in, but the idea is that in order to get to make sure that everyone gets the payout that they're entitled to over their retirement, it has to be funded, and that is something that was lacking many years ago for many communities, actually all communities, I have to say, across the Commonwealth and actually across the United States. It's a very common problem, and they're all everybody's dealing with it in their own way. And Massachusetts has a law that specifically states that we have to have a funding schedule looking out to going no farther out than 2040 to fund that. And that's with a combination of appropriation increases over the next, 15 years. And potentially, although that, there haven't been any law changes yet, but you never know, potentially some increases in employee contributions. I mean, they've already been done in the past. Employee contribution rates have had to increase, but I'm not really sure that I see that in the foreseeable future. But that's really the only way that we can make sure that all the current and future retirees can get their can be assured, of getting their retirement that was promised to them when they signed up with working with the City of Holyoke. And generally what we do is we take all that money and we invest it. We do it prudently. We do it openly with using experts in allocation of assets. We as a board actually interview every single one of them that wants to handle our investments. And we have a broad range of them. There must be, I'm going to just throw a number out here. It's got to be 20 or more possibly, but there's 20 I could probably name different investment firms that we do business with across various genres of investments, whether it be equities, bonds, I'm just, cash. I mean, any number of things. There's a whole bunch of them. And we have to spread that out a lot because we're talking about a lot of money here, hundreds of millions of dollars. So those investments then, earn income, and and they also hopefully grow in value. So between the two of them, we take the income and use that as part of the payment that's made each month to all the retirees. And then we also then sock away the increase in value to each of these investments and investment types to hopefully bolster the funding, the future funding that may be needed if ever we needed to to sell any of those to pay retirement costs. So it's a real complex balancing act between what comes in and what goes out, and there's a lot of stuff that happens in between, and that's basically what we oversee.
Great, thank you so much. I appreciate that answer. It's a really important job. You're managing a very diverse investment portfolio, and it has to be managed well, because a lot of our present employees and past employees depend on that equity being there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm all set. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilor LISI. All right, Councilor Graney, I think you were next.
Yes, I was. Brian, thank you so much for your willingness to serve the community again. I can only say that the City of Holyoke has hit 2 home runs right in a row tonight. So God bless the City of Holyoke. Thank both of you guys for willing to serve again. It's terrific to have the experience and the knowledge that you bring forth back into the city. And we really appreciate it. And I'm sure the residents of the city will all benefit. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Councilor Graney.
I wholeheartedly agree. Do any other city councilors have any questions, thoughts, comments, statements? Okay, Councilor Murphy, Mayor Murphy.
Thank you. I just want to let you know, I did meet with Cheryl today, and she's just as positive as Brian is right now, and that we're in good shape, and we continue to make progress. I think she told me she was thinking it was 2034 now is the projection, and it was I believe we have been about 70% now, so, or close to 70%. So it was the high 60s. I know that, and close to 70. So we have made progress, and I know you discussed at the last meeting that we want to make good investments. We want to be conservative in certain aspects, but aggressive in others, where you can be making sure we find. So it's the meeting with her and then meeting with Brian, we're in good shape. So, and hopefully we'll get in better shape. But I want to thank Brian for serving again, and I appreciate his help the other day. He came and met with me, and I want to personally thank you for that.
My pleasure.
I'll entertain a motion, or sorry, I will make the motion that we confirm this appointment and approve it.
A second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Let's have it. Congratulations, and as you know, we're going to vote on this at the next meeting. So thank you so much for volunteering.
All right. My pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, let's, now we have an order. If I can have somebody entertained to make a motion for item
Sure.
number 3.
I'll make a motion that we take up item number 3 off the table for discussion.
All in favor?
Second. Aye.
Aye. All right, so let's go. All right, so item number 3. This is from Councilor Murphy. Order that the leadership of the Holyoke Rose and the Parks and Rec Director commissioners meet with the Public Service Committee to develop a plan to allow more Holyoke youngsters a chance to participate in the summer programming. Can we develop a plan to reduce the $100 weekly fee for the child? And if so, by how much? If not, seek out sponsors to provide the opportunity for the youngsters despite their inability to pay. All right, so Councilor Murphy, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do appreciate it. I know we have some people from Holyoke Rose that are here, so I appreciate that. And Andy, I know you tried to call me. I did try to get back to you. I'm sorry I didn't actually get to talk to you, but I do appreciate your call and your interest, and I appreciate your willingness to come and try to help get more. I mean, I live right. I can see the rowing take place right out my window since I live right by the river. So I do appreciate what you're doing. I'm just trying to find a way to make it more accessible to more of our youth. And obviously economics plays a role, but I want to get as many kids involved. Obviously there's 2 things beyond the physical activity, being outdoors, getting fresh air. There's also some exercise in that. And then there's just an appreciation of the environment around the river. So all 3 of those things are my goals in this. I want to try to make it, obviously you've got to live within your financial means, but I'm hoping we might be in a position to do something that can really attract as many kids as possible from as many different areas in the city, so that the appreciation of the river, the outdoor and socializing and the athleticism that's required will be shared with as many kids as possible. So that's my goal. I appreciate the people from Holyoke Rural being here and listening, and I hope that's something you might be able to do.
Okay,
That's great. And
Councilor Murphy, I'm not sure if you got a chance to talk to him, but I got a letter from Terry saying she wasn't going to be on tonight's meeting. I wasn't sure why.
Yeah, I did not hear. I mean, I'm just getting to my emails now. So I just got yours. I just started reading yours when this was coming up. So, but we have people from Holyoke Rural, so I would like to hear from them if that's possible.
Of course, absolutely. So who do we have? We have Stephanie Moore.
Yeah, hi.
Hi,
So
how are
I actually had a chance to talk to Terry today. So she and I will be meeting in the future to following week to sort of see how we can partner in this project. Some of it, just for your awareness right now, our summer programs are at half the capacity they were pre-COVID. So we were able to run summer programs last year with a capacity of 10. We normally have 20 to 22. This year we're opening up to 12 children at a time. And those are half-day programs. We're dropping lunch, which I think was a big feature of the program for some of our kids. But given COVID, we don't want unmasked eating to occur. So pickup is at 11:30. So the camps are different for the past 2 years. So we are at about half capacity. But just so that council knows sort of some of what we do. So our youth programs, we run a middle school and a high school after school program in the fall and the spring, and that is free to any area youth. So no one pays anything for that. Our summer camps programs a long time ago were free or $10 for the week, which is basically free. And what we discovered is that we were not, there were kids who were coming to camp who the next week were going to horseback riding camp and going to climbing camp and you know, people who could definitely afford camp. So we're trying to figure out that balance between paying our bills and having people pay what they can for a program. So what we've done is we've offered a pretty nominal fee for many families, the $100, but it's not attainable for all families, certainly. Any family who comes to us and asks for it to be reduced or free, we do that. And last year we had about 150 kids participate in our programs, and 15 of those came either free or reduced, so about 10%. We could get, so that's where we're at, and we could do more. If people ask, we could do that. Were we to change the dynamic greatly, if we were to be offering 50% of our kids to be free or reduced, we'd probably have to look to scholarships and sponsors. And just from your order, we've already gotten a donation towards summer programs. So I think that's a reasonable goal, is to have it funded, to advertise it and ask parents who can afford more to pay more for other kids. So I think it's, I'm excited to get more people at the Boathouse and to get more accessibility and to get more kids from a diverse background there, and different income levels. So we're on board and we're open to your suggestions. And I think probably Andy has more to say about that too.
I'll turn it over to Andy.
I think Andy's
every
frozen.
week then, if we're getting. Can you hear me?
Yep.
No, yes.
Now we can.
I would say do an order every week if we're getting donations based on your orders. No, I think Stephanie said it well. I think we're happy to try and expand the programming, and we do realize that there's a lot of ways to bring more support to the work that Holyoke Rose does. So really appreciate the interest and the nudge on it. Stephanie does amazing work on a very thin budget. So we're really happy to think about how we can build out programming and make it more affordable for more people, because it's a really special place. So we'll keep working on it.
I do appreciate, if I can, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, first we have Councilor Hernandez.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and good evening to everyone. And I want to welcome the Holyoke Rose. And I just wanted to say that from past experience, throughout my different interactions, like with the care center, with young mothers living, in impoverished communities, the opportunities that they have been able to attain through participating with the Holyoke Rose has been amazing transformation in their lives. They've been able to achieve things that they didn't think that they were capable of. And I just want to say thank you to those opportunities that were offered to the Holyoke Rose, as well as to many children in our community through social justice programs that were able to attend the different activities at the Holyoke Rose. And I mean, I just wanted to ask if there was any other thoughts or ways that, I know that you just received a donation from this order that was filed, but is there any other like tools that can be implemented or ideas to try to have like donations come in and set it aside like for scholarships? So at the same time, we can serve our communities that don't have the ability to pay. And at the same time, the Holyoke Rose can also, have that economic, fund to fall back on as offering these services. Is there anything that you can think of, Ms. Moore, that can be implemented to raise funds for these activities?
I think that probably falls on us to do a better job with our website and to advertise it. We have a social media person. So I think just the good response we got from that one person, I think we can just sell it, like sponsor a kid to camp, and I think if you have ideas, but otherwise I think we'll attack social media and our website. One thing that would help in general is just to promote our middle school and high school rowing programs, the after school program. And from the care center how influential that is to students. So getting it out there, I think, because we're not a school sport, official school sport, I think some people don't see us. And so just getting the word out, because I think, again, participation brings funding. The more kids we have out, the larger program we have, the more successful we are in terms of having students there, then I think donations and funding happens.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm sorry, I had to run out. I had a fox in my front lawn, and my dog was going absolutely nuts. I chased him away to Mike Sullivan's house. Murphy?
That's the call I got. Some noise complaint with a dog. I didn't think it was yours. So let me just say, first of all, I really appreciate you being here and your willingness to try to reach out. And I'm just as I'm listening, there's a couple of things. I met with the Chamber of Commerce today to talk about, and we are trying to coordinate working on, we're going to have some mobile vaccine vans, and they're going to try to get some, their businesses to help us create sponsorships and attract more people. And I'm going to reach out to Jordan again tomorrow and see if potentially some chamber members might want to do some additional support for your programs, and especially for, I'm thinking younger kids, but obviously you seem to do pretty well with middle and high school, and I'd like to get the younger ones. The other aspect here, and I've mentioned this at the school committee, and I've mentioned this at the joint committee. One of the things that I think we really have to do this summer, more so than we've ever done, is get kids out, physically activity in groups that they're comfortable with. So I'm going to talk to Anthony Soto. I know they've got money to try to develop programs that are going to get kids enthused and sight and all the other kind of things that are going to help them rebound from what has been a very challenging year. So I'm going to try to see if maybe there's some potential funding that might come. Maybe you work with Morgan School, or you work with Kelly School, you work with Downey School, and we start to see and sign up some kids and see if we can do that with the school system, helping you fund some of your programs, maybe not to the $100, but funding it enough so that you can feel comfortable and we get more kids actively involved. So I do appreciate, and I appreciate your willingness and your enthusiasm to run the program. Like I say, I see rowboat, and I know they're not rowboats, but whatever they're officially called, I see them out there, and I say on my river because I'm living right down there. So I do appreciate it, and I think we can make more kids enjoy the experience, which long-term will make more people interested in participating as they get older, in my opinion. So.
Okay, thank you, Terry. I got a quick question, if I could. It was just asked, can you just tell us a little bit about Holyoke Groves itself? Is it a private? Is it nonprofit? Is it not for profit? What's the structure behind it?
We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we've been around for, I don't know, 22 years now, operating out of Holyoke.
You have like a president, vice president, board of directors, that sort of thing?
We do, as all nonprofits do. Andy, who's here at the meeting, is secretary. We have a president and treasurer, and then a full board of volunteers.
All right, Councilor LISI, you have another question?
Yes, thanks so much for being down here this evening. I was wondering, this summer, are you anticipating being at half capacity because of COVID again, or will you have greater capacity?
We've increased capacity from 10 to 12, and I'm open to finding out more of the state's guidelines on camps. We're not officially a camp, but a summer program, and seeing if we can up it a little bit. But again, kids aren't vaccinated. Kids still need to maintain social distance. You start getting 15 kids together, all carrying boats down the ramp, all in the boathouse. It's going to be hard to do that. So I anticipate we're going to stay around 12, 13 kids.
That's good to know that, you're going to have some protocols in place, and that you'll also at the same time be able to increase the capacity. We definitely tried to get in last summer. I have a 7-year-old, and it seemed like a great opportunity. And we couldn't, because it seemed like the program was really in demand. And so that's wonderful news. The two follow-up questions are, number one, is there a way to stagger row times so that you're increasing slots, even if we're maintaining some social distance?
Yeah, we're just, because our camps have now almost filled, we are looking into doing an afternoon session. So I imagine we'll be doubling it, but it's a matter of my finding staff at the moment and getting that together. We also do group programs in the afternoon, like we do a Boys and Girls Club, Lighthouse, some other groups. We're doing a Hampden County Sheriff's Department program, some after school or Springfield school stuff. So we'll have to negotiate around all that. But yes, I anticipate adding probably 5 more separate weeks. And I just tell you, one of our concerns about all this is that because camp has, or summer programs for kids have been so in demand with the pandemic, that we seem to get a lot of people who we seem not to get the low income kids. That takes, we seem to be in the social networks of more affluent people, and then the camps fills up. So we're really struggling with find out how do we save spots for other kids? How do we make room for people who maybe don't think about summer programs until June? I'm one of those parents who did that, right? So any ideas, we're welcome to hear that, because we want to be serving everyone, but when we become popular, we want to make sure people aren't shut out.
Yeah, I would just say, you know, if there's a way to hold spots, or for every, if the tuition costs $100 and you have families that can double that and sponsor a seat, it goes right into, that unit, if you will, or that like row team, so that you're building you're holding space while also building your enrollment. And then I just wonder out loud if there's a way to, do a sliding scale, so that, you're allowing families to do more where they can do more. So up to like the double tuition, and, creating those opportunities for people to feel like they are contributing and having some, I guess, sense of agency that they're doing their part to take those spaces also.
Great idea. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Graney?
Yeah, just quickly, thanks for what you guys do, but I don't know how many skulls you have, or how many kids participate, but I don't know if there's a possibility of running a regatta and having the local businesses sponsor each of the skulls to raise some money. I'm sure a lot of the local businesses would be happy to get their name out there to put on a skull for one of the races or something like that. And the other possibility to raise money could probably come from the COVID money that we're getting, to see if we could disseminate some of that money toward the rowing program. But I think a regatta idea where local businesses would be willing to sponsor a skull for X amount of dollars, which would free up a tuition for a low-income kid to participate. Something like that may help. The website could be very active on something like that. Anyways, that's just an idea.
Thanks.
Yeah, Stephanie, just a quick little story. Ann Folta from Holyoke, she had a daughter, and she was the #1 lacrosse player in New England. In her junior year, she signed with Stanford and Harvard, and she had to make a decision. She ended up going to Harvard. And I think into her second or third game, she tore her ACL or MCL, one of the two. And she couldn't play it any longer. Her roommate was a rower, and she said, well, I'm done practicing. Why don't you come down with me, and you can just go on the rowing machine and get your exercise, because you go up and down instead of left and right. Well, she caught the attention quickly of the Harvard coach, and she ended up walking on to the team, ended up winning the Charles River Championship, and the mom's from Holyoke. I think it was a pretty cool story.
Yes.
So having said that, I don't see any other comments.
Councilor Leahy?
Yes.
Stephanie's very humble. I mean, I think she doesn't really promote everything that happens at the boathouse. There is also a kayaking program. And so Stephanie's done a great job expanding the number of kayaks, and there's a family kayaking program, huge increase this last year in that. And so it's not just rowing. So it's a really accessible way to get on the river in a couple different ways. That's really important to note. And the other thing about Holyoke Rows that we should never overlook, Stephanie has a national reputation in adaptive rowing. She can get anybody on the river rowing. It's a really remarkable thing. And the people that are able to get on the river in different ways, thanks to Stephanie, is really terrific. So it's not just rowing, it's kayaking, canoes, and lots of ways to enjoy the river.
I'd love for her to try to get me onto a boat without falling. That can happen.
All right, come on down.
Is that a fundraiser?
Yeah. All right, so having said
I'll
all...
make a motion then that we say that this order has been complied with.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. All right, great. Thank you so much. And we're still trying to figure out what happened to Terry Shepard, but I'll work on that with Jeffrey. All right, so can we have, let me see, we're at item 4, moving along. All right, so...
Motion to take up item number 4 off the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay, item number 4 is introduced by Councilor LISI, that the City Council develop a public process by which councilors can submit recommendations for how the $29 million in COVID-19 stimulus funding will be spent locally. So I think that Jeffrey, were all the department heads notified?
Yes, they were.
Okay, and I only see
Notified a couple times.
a handful of department heads here, which is a shame. So I think probably what we should do is turn this over to Councilor LISI. She can do her introduction, then maybe we'll go to each department individually. Okay, go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you. So the City of Holyoke is being awarded about $32 million in direct aid through the American Rescue Act. And I wanted to make sure that the process was open and transparent to the extent possible. I thought a good way to at least start the process was asking each of our city departments to submit a memo or a proposal about how they would like to spend the funds. And then the city council would be able to review all of those proposals and prioritize the items that we thought were of greatest necessity. I do hope that there's a series of meetings related to this order. As you can see, we do have a lot of participation this evening from department heads. I wonder if we got out the guidance early enough for folks to be able to make proposals that were going to make sense given the guidance that we've received from the federal government on how these funds can be applied. I also wonder if we could invite, the gas and electric in particular, very explicitly in the guidance that we received so far. Broadband has been a carve out that the COVID relief funds can be used for. And then finally, I think, the citizens should weigh in. There can be direct aid given out to, I've heard, for example, essential workers, CNAs that were really on the front lines doing some hard work in the community, and other essential workers that could be given hazard pay to some extent. There was the eviction moratorium, and I would imagine that, we don't have a lot of very large high rises here in Holyoke, a lot of local owner landlords that are really, very involved in their buildings. And I wonder if creating some offsets for, those landlords who had to forego months of rent because of the eviction moratorium may be hard hit. So there's just a couple of ideas out there, but I think this is to begin the conversation and begin to see where the proposals are and what the priorities might be, and get the public to be aware of what's out there, and then be at some point weigh in more directly.
Okay, so sounds good. So the first department that I see is Chief Preskopowski. What say you?
Good evening, everyone.
So were you able to listen to Councilor LISI's introduction?
I did.
Okay, so I guess basically what we're going to do is go through each department and kind of, if you could give us the highlights of your proposal, and maybe if you made like an Amazon wish list, what would you be asking for?
Sure. Well, thanks for having us in tonight. This is a very important meeting in regard to this probably once in a lifetime funding that's coming from the federal government. As the fire chief, I do look at this funding seriously. I know there are a lot of community aspects to this that people are going to be trying to lobby for. And I think that's a good thing. I think it should be spread out, and every community should have an opportunity to put proposals in, different organizations within the community to put proposals in and lobby for this money. As the fire chief, I do have some projects that I would like to have considered by the council and the committee that's formed to allocate this. I kind of looked at my capital outlay for the next 10 years and put together a proposal that I think is transformative. Instead of one earmark spending, these projects would be spread out, or would be a one-time purchase now, but would pay dividends for long periods of time, not just a purchase for this year and the funding's done. These projects would be projects that would give life to some fire stations, some health and safety projects for our firefighters. And I think they're very important, and I hope that you would all consider funding all and or some of them when it comes around to that time. I can outline the bullets in my letter. I did send a letter to Mayor Murphy, and I did send a letter to Councilor LISI. I can certainly send my letter to all of you tomorrow if you're in need of that. It kind of outlines the projects that I'm looking at.
We got it tonight.
What's that?
I said it would have been kind of helpful if me as the chairperson of the committee would have had it tonight, but it's okay.
I can email it right now if you want.
Yeah, I wonder if we could do a screen share. Does Chief Priskopowski have that capability, Jeffrey?
I don't, my document is on my work computer, so I don't have that.
Or you probably just email it to Jeffrey and he could do it.
Yeah, if you want to send it to me, I could share it for you.
And all the other department heads, if you have your letter handy, even if it's ready or if it's not ready, just email it to Jeffrey. While he's doing that, Councilor McGivern, you have a question?
If I could, and I think it's a good point. In the sense of fairness, this is a wonderful order and a great exercise here this evening. But we're still waiting to hear from the federal government and how the process is going to work. Is it going to be like block grants, or is it going to be more like a budget process and the mayor proposes and the city council disposes? So in fairness to not knowing what the procedure is going to be down the road, I would hope that maybe with the help of Jeff, we could accumulate everything that is put in the request this evening and keep a running tab on it. So when the time comes, we'll remember what we heard this evening, because it's if it's part of the budget process, it's going to be sometime before we get it before us. And it's going to be hard to remember all the requests this evening. And I think if it's just part of the block grant, then the only person you got to worry about is on my Zoom. He's to my left. But it's just the unknowns are there right now. We know the dollar amount, but we still don't know how we can use it.
Okay, are we all set to go, Jeff?
I'm still having some technical difficulties here.
Okay.
I think
we're planning to have this tabled anyway tonight, right? So it's a continued conversation.
Yeah, we'll want to have other departments in before us as well. But I did send it. I sent the document over to Jeffrey, our administrative assistant, and to you as well, Councilor Leahy. And I believe Councilor Murphy wanted to weigh in on some of the spending questions that came up.
Thank you, Councilor. I see that. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr.
Very
Chairman.
quickly.
This, and again, Congressman Neal is expecting the final methods and process to be somewhat decided. He had indicated it would probably be around this Friday, the beginning of May. In his first conversation with me, he thinks it is going to be CDBG type of process. He also has encouraged that the process be accelerated because the goal is to move this money into the economy and doing projects as quickly as possible. So with all that in mind, and certainly not finalizing it, my goal would be to have solicit proposals. Once I know the specifics of what can and can't be done, solicit proposals from obviously the city departments, from community members, and probably in a 15 to 30 day window, have citizen input probably for another 15 days, and then city council input for 15 days. And after 60 days, try to have some of these projects actually funded and beginning to move sometime in the mid to early summer. So I know that was the congressman's recommendation, and the goal was to try to move these things through as quickly as possible. But I am going, once I know what the requirements are, what the specifics of what we can do, I will send that out and ask for as much depth and proposals, and as many proposals that come in, we'll give all of them their ample consideration.
Okay, thank you. Councilor McGivern? muted, Joe.
Sorry, I lose my shot when we get this shared screen. Thank you. I think that's good news, and thank you, Mayor Murphy. It's going to be an interesting May and June. That's a very aggressive schedule, knowing we're going to have 45 days of budget review on top of looking at $72 million of American Rescue money. But I think with your help and whichever way it comes in, we'll do our best to get it through as quickly as possible.
I appreciate that.
Okay, Chief Preskowski, we got your letter up there. Why don't you kind of go briefly?
Sure. As I spoke earlier, these were capital outlay items that, large capital outlay items that I was planning on putting in for the next few budget cycles. These capital outlay projects will give life to some existing old infrastructure within the city, i.e. our fire stations, critical infrastructure that need to be maintained and need to be ready to go 24/7, 365. These projects would add life to these buildings. One in particular, Station 3 on Northampton Street, which is in dire need of some help in regard to its infrastructure. I do think by putting these projects forward, and if we're able to fund them, we will add 5, 10, 15 years to this building. Otherwise, we're going to be looking at a station replacement cost coming up real soon. So I do think we have an opportunity here to add some life to some critical infrastructure if it warrants it. And like it was said earlier, we're not really sure what can be funded and what can't, and I understand that, but I wanted to put these projects forward for your consideration in the event that there is some leeway within the capital projects that can be done. Station 6 is another building that's in need of some help and some infrastructure in regard to windows and a new boiler. You know, I would love to be able to fund a second set of turnout gear for all my firefighters because of cancer research has shown that your dirty PPE after a fire is a direct cancer causing agent. And after a fire, I'd love to have that first set laundered and have that second set ready to go when they get back to the station. It is a large ticket item, but I think it's a much needed item for the health and safety of all our firefighters. And I will go to bat for that any day of the week, all day long as I'm chief. I will petition for the health and safety of my men and women. So that's in essence the projects. There is another project on here with a residential Knox box program, which I've conferred with Mayor Murphy on. And we've put some feelers out to the Knox company who makes these lock boxes for to be administered and installed on people's front doors in the event of a medical emergency or in the event of a fire where someone can't get to a locked door to unlock it for us. We have a key that can get to that box, open that door, and render help to whoever inside. So we would love to start putting that program forward community-wide, and this would be the first step in doing that.
Great.
And I'm open to any of your questions. Excuse me?
Do you have any questions for the chief? I don't see any hands. All right. As you heard before, we're still not certain exactly how the program is going to run. So you're going to find out some more information, but this is a good start, good conversation to be had. So having said that, we thank you. And I do see that the police department is right next to you. So
I think that Councilor McGivern has his hand up, but it may be. Okay.
So we're going from the red to the blue. So hello, police department. You there?
Hello there, Councilor Leahy. This is Lieutenant Hart. I'm here with Captain Pratt, and I did send a letter just this evening to all the councilors as well as Jeffrey. I don't know if he can put that up to share, but I will go over what we have planned. It's kind of similar to the fire departments as far as capital expenses. What we are proposing is basically the infrastructure within the station as well as outside. We did have a conversation with Mayor Murphy as far as police analytical software that we're looking to get that'll help with some of the information that was brought up recently in the assessment. With new software, we'll be able to get more information back to the councilors as far as crime goes and our overall operations. And kind of, we're hoping to tie into the softwares, our camera system. We have the original cameras. Most of the stuff in this police department is all original, over 20 years old, which includes our camera system inside the station, as well as the swipe card locking mechanisms for our police station. And city cameras as well. Our city cameras, excuse me, are over 12 years old. And
I don't mean to interrupt you, but Jeffrey, can you just scroll down to the bottom of the page? Perfect. Go ahead, Sergeant. Or I mean, Lieutenant.
Okay, and another very important thing we're looking at, and we ask, is for tasers for each individual officer. But this request is for 40. We have another grant that we're requesting 25 more from, and another one we're grant for an additional 20. We'd like to have every officer equipped with a taser to have that less lethal option. You know, in today's climate with officer involved shootings, this is kind of a very important and critical piece of equipment that our officers should be having. Also, we're requesting our ventilation cleaning for our vents here. You know, it's especially due to COVID, but I don't think our vents been cleaned in at least 15 years. Carpeting, again, we have the original 20-year-old carpet. And that's about it.
Okay, I see Councilor Hernandez. I see your hand popped up.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to all the attendees tonight and to the Holyoke Police Department. I had a question on, does the Holyoke Police Department ever thought, or I don't know because it's probably not in the budget, but about the gunshot detection system, the shot spotter that can alert you guys as to when there's shots fired in the different high crime areas? And is that something that if you guys thought about, it could be probably maybe added and maybe funded through these monies?
Yes, very good question. And as a matter of fact, we have a Zoom meeting with ShotSpotter next week to go over all that information, costs and expenses. And so we'll be getting back to the council and the mayor on all that information. And if it is feasible, we'd love to put that in addition to our requests. I know I spoke with a few officers from Springfield, and they have it, and they really appreciate that system.
Thank you so much.
Councilor LISI?
Yes, thank you. Sergeant Hart, Captain Hart, sorry about that. I was wondering, so when we have these cameras, I see you looking for cameras at the intersections in particular and traffic stops. Are these the types of cameras that would be able to identify traffic violations so that we are doing that sort of enforcement without actually having to have guys in uniform on the street pulling people over for those sort of offenses? Or is it a different type of camera system?
Yeah, it wouldn't be able to identify traffic violations, but it would be valuable in getting traffic analysis back to us, allowing us to put enforcement patrols in those areas that we see that speeding's occurring. We do have our traffic signs that we put out in various locations, and they collect similar data that tells us how fast traffic's flowing and time of day and stuff. So that's valuable information that these cameras would also capture.
Do you know anything about those other cameras, and if they would like fit within the design and mission of the department as it's structured presently? It just seems like a way to get guys in uniform away from the traffic stops, which can be in some ways tense encounters. And if they are only traffic violations, cameras seem like a way to sort of monitor the traffic violations. I'm just wondering if there's a place or a fit within the department at this point in time for that type of technology.
We can certainly look into those cameras and find out the cost. I'm not sure if state police uses them, or like on the turnpike, if they capture that data and are able to automatically issue citations to violators. But we can definitely look into that software.
Yeah, I'd be interested. And again, I'm not a police officer. I'm not making a decision about whether or not it's a fit. But if it is something that can help the department, I'd be interested in understanding the cost and moving forward with it in some way. But that it'll ultimately be a decision that you all will have to make.
Okay, yeah, we'll look into it. Also, I just wanted to, I know you had mentioned in the beginning about guidelines. I was wondering if you can send a copy of those guidelines to me so I can look over them. I'm not sure if some of these requests are eligible or not, so I'd like to be informed on that.
I had sent them over to Jeffrey. I'll make sure they're distributed widely, but I think that they're just a rough guidance at this point in time on what they can be applied to. And I think we're awaiting the more detailed guidance that will talk hand in hand about how the allocations will be made. And I think that's the point that Councilor McGivern continues to bring up. But we do have a general guidance. And so we can share that with all the departments. Thank you for asking for it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Does any other questions, please? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. We appreciate you guys joining us in our Zoom call meeting.
Thank you very much.
Next person I see is Alicia. She just popped up. Alicia, what say you?
Good evening, everyone. So I have more along the lines of suggestions in terms of grant management at this point. And so if the council is feeling like you would like municipal as well as non-municipal applications for funding, then one of the suggestions that I have would be to adopt a CDBG-like process. And so it's my understanding from the Mass Municipal Association that on May 10th, we'll be getting detailed guidance from the Treasury Department on how the money can be spent, how it can be allocated, the sorts of projects that could be funded. So I would suggest that you schedule an information session that could be attended by both outside entities as well as department heads. And perhaps we could get a PowerPoint presentation that goes over the types of eligible projects, what the application process would be, what the public review process would be. And then my next suggestion would be to, rather than having folks submit letters of interest or what we've seen tonight, is to make it as similar across the board with the same format. And so we've been using a Google form application. It's an online, you can simply have, 5 or 10 questions about projects, but then Jeffrey could take all of those Google forms and you download it, and it downloads as a spreadsheet. And so then the council could compare apples to apples. So if you have 2 applications for housing services, let's say, you would see those on a spreadsheet. That way you're seeing all the projects listed at once with the total at the bottom, and use a format that looks similar to CDBG, where you make recommendations, and then there's a final allocation process. So if you need any help with that, I'm more than happy to walk Jeffrey or whoever's going to work on it through. But that would be my recommendation, both for ease of you all in reviewing, as well as the ease of folks who want to apply for the funding. In terms of the items or the types of funding or the needs, I would certainly suggest this is sort of a once in a lifetime opportunity. And so those big ticket items that we've tossed around in the city for 15, 20, 25 years. So we know that we have a list from the problem property group of properties that we need $1 or $2 million to deal with. I certainly would be looking at those. I would be looking at the capital improvement spreadsheet that's already been developed and is ready to go, and what's on there for projects. I would be looking for those sorts of projects that result in sustainable government, that when we look back, 30 years from now, the next generation will say we really use those funds well. And so what does that mean for climate resiliency? What does that mean for upgrading government? For instance, we have no electronic records system in the city of Holyoke. We have no records archival process. We have no electronic storage of documents. We're all using Google Drive that may or may not be sustainable over a period of time. So what sort of things in government itself do we need? Our computer servers certainly could use some updating. So those big sort of ticket items that would carry local government into the future for generations. And then finally, I would encourage you to look seriously at housing and our housing needs in the city, and make a significant allocation of funds to home ownership. We know that home ownership stabilizes our neighborhoods, grows the tax base, grows family wealth and financial security, and that home ownership doesn't need to be out of the reach of our lowest income families. Home ownership can, for what people are paying for rents in Holyoke, they very easily could pay their mortgage. We have families that are paying $1,400, $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month. That easily could translate into an affordable mortgage. So I would encourage you to think about home ownership and really growing the homeowner base for the next generations. So I'm more than happy to work with whoever on sort of setting up that process. But I really would strongly suggest that you figure out what kind of process and how you can get folks to apply. That's all I have for tonight. I'm happy to put my comments in writing to you as well.
It's fantastic, and I think that your points are well taken, and I think that's in my opinion, that's what we should do. So thank you for that. Councilor LISI?
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Alicia, for bringing the knowledge and experience that you have from the CDBG process and helping us to apply it here. It does sound like a really great way to get organized, and hopefully, at least on the city end, through the process that we're going through here, our departments will be ready to go, and so that it will be fairly expedited and easy to get those numbers into the spreadsheet. I will just, volunteer if you, need someone to work with. I'm not sure if Councilor Murphy's going to have the capacity to set up, the system that you just proposed here, but I think it makes a lot of sense. And so if the council wants somebody to work with you on that, I'm happy to volunteer and help. I think it's a worthwhile project, and I really appreciate you setting the, funding priorities, like the issue areas that we should be focusing on. I think it dovetails really well with the comments that Representative Neal made when he came through, that we should really be prioritizing legacy projects, the things that are going to sustain the city in terms of infrastructure and design moving forward. So thank you so much for being prepared and having those proposals for us this evening.
Yeah, thank you. It was wonderful. We can certainly talk to Councilor McGee if you want to be appointed, or somebody else he wants to appoint for that. Does anybody else have any other questions? Yeah, Councilor Hernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just wanted to thank Alicia and her kind words, and wanted to state the importance when you mentioned home ownership and how it stabilizes communities. I just wanted to say that I am a witness of that, a product of it. I mean, I'm the first generation in my family to be able to become a homeowner, and I utilize CDBG funds, first-time home buyers funds, in order to be able to achieve that dream. And I just want to say that it was a transformative, overall experience for my family and I. It instilled stability in us and empowered us. And I think that I would like to see those funds being utilized for that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you once again. Mr. Michael McManus, just right next door to you. So you got the DPW. I also see Bob Parent there. So what say you, sir?
So I kind of agree with what Joe had said earlier and others, that we kind of need to wait to see what the actual guidance on what we can spend this money on is before we go all in and get our hopes up on different programs and whatnot. I think we need to keep in mind that the money we're talking about, it's just the state and local aid portion of the COVID relief package. So that relief package is $1.9 trillion. The state and local aid was $350 billion. Within the COVID relief package, there was a lot of other programs for energy, health and human service, homeland security, housing, small business. So there's a lot of other programs that'll be out there that the city can tap into outside of this $32 million that came in. Just looking at that money and the guidance that we have so far, there's a couple places that I see where the money can be used for DPW related projects. The first one, there's part of the guidelines talks about covering increased expenditures and replenishing lost revenue. Last year, during the height of the pandemic, when everything was shut down, DPW, we were not enforcing parking regulations. We weren't making sure that the meters were fed, and that the people using the garages, the few people that were using the garages, had a monthly pass. So there's definitely some revenue. And I know Mayor Murphy and Tanya have been tracking this and looking at the lost revenue that we didn't get last year from parking, but there's also permit fees that were waived during this time. So there is some revenue that could be collected or allocated from this money. There's language to provide aid to households to address economic effects of COVID-19. And that could be a way that the city uses funds to assist certain households with payments for drinking water and sewer related expenses. So these would be people who haven't been paying their water or sewer bill. DPW were more concerned about payment of the sewer bill. And we also haven't been able to enforce the water shutoff for non-payment of sewer fees. It will be lifted. We will have to get back into that process of shutting off water supply for people. And there are some residents that owe significant amounts, $500 to $1,000 to $1,500 in past sewer bills that all of a sudden some point in time they'll get a knock on the door saying we're going to shut you off if you don't pay this bill. So it looks like there might be language in the state and local aid portion of the COVID relief bill that could be used to help out certain people with past water and sewer bills. And then there was definitely language in the bill about making investments in water, sewer, and broadband. I'm interested in the sewer part. There's definitely opportunities for us to use these funds to replace parts of our 100-plus-year-old sewer system. make improvements to our 70-year-old flood control system. We're right in the middle of the Jackson Street Sewer Separation Project, which is an $8 million project. We've started the another preliminary design CSO separation project up in the River Terrace area. That has a cost estimate of $15 to $16 million, which we could use. Those would be projects that would have to be, if done during regular time, would have to be bonded and paid for over a long period of time. And there's also some flood control system projects that would need to happen with their flood control pump stations. They're old. They have very old electrical systems that need rehabilitation, and the city just doesn't have the money to make those upgrades. This could be one of those opportunities to make the improvements with this money. And then I was talking with Terry Shepard at Parks and Rec, and she wanted me to relay her interest in this money on a Parks and Rec side. And that would, she sees it could be an opportunity to construct permanent public restrooms at city parks, playgrounds, and sport fields. So a permanent facility, it wouldn't be open all of the time. It would be open while there's staff at the park or the field. And a permanent facility is just more aesthetically pleasing. And it's also more sanitary than the temporary facilities, the porta potties that are used on a regular basis. So preliminary, without knowing the nitty gritty on what we can spend this money on, that's where I see DPW's role.
Great. Does anybody have any questions for Michael? All right, well, thank you very much, Michael. And I see Bob there too, so I want to thank you both. Aaron Vega just popped up, your neighbor to your right. What say you, Aaron?
Thanks, Counselor. Good to see everybody. So first, I would just echo, and again, I met with Mayor Murphy as well, and we are waiting for the guidelines. I'm hearing May 10th. This Friday would be even better, but I'm hearing May 10th for some guidelines from DOR. So we'll see. We all know how fast government works. So I would say just also, I know my friend Alicia knows more than I do on the CDBG funds, but I believe that there's going to be a separate whole pot of money going to CDBG as well. And as Mike pointed out, there's other funding to address a lot of the issues that have come up separate of the 31 million coming. We can always supplement more of that 31 million, but there are going to be lots of different streams of money coming in. I think Alicia's right. The tracking as far as what she does at CBG is fantastic and will be able to help us monitor the money. I do hope that the process for some of this money is not as onerous as some of the CBG funding. So with all due respect to Alicia, we work well together, but sometimes the process for the small nonprofits and the for-profits is sometimes a little tricky. So I do have a letter coming from the office. We were just looking at a couple of different things, but I will just say a couple words real quick. When you talk about technology infrastructure, hands down, I think a lot of this has to be thinking about what COVID taught us, right? And so I know, for instance, that even as we move to more in-person meetings and be able to gather more and have people in the office, I'm still going to be utilizing Zoom. I mean, it's a simple tool. Hopefully we'll be able to get together, but if those quick ongoing weekly meetings where you're getting people together, it's not going to be advantageous for everyone to drive to one location. So infrastructure for city staff is key. I still have some of my staff that doesn't have computers with cameras. So again, computer staffing, infrastructure would be great. And if we're looking at municipal buildings, dare I say the annex needs a new roof. Being on the 4th floor, the annex is an amazing, beautiful building, but it needs some love. So hopefully the annex repairs and infrastructure similar to the police department and the fire department requests. I hope that the annex can be addressed as something to be thinking about, making sure that building survives for at least the next couple of mayors. Couple quick things. Again, the infrastructure is critical. I think especially if we can pair the infrastructure repairs to developments happening. Obviously, that'll be great to see that. lost revenue, I just want to mention also, thanks to the mayor and the previous mayor and the previous mayor before that, we did not charge any businesses to reissue their liquor licenses this year. So that was lost revenue for the city as well. A good move, 100% support it. But again, when you talk about city lost revenue, I know Councilor McGivern is already thinking about the budget shortfalls that we may be seeing. So hopefully we won't be seeing many shortfalls. But again, all that revenue that came in from license renewals, did not come into the city. Last two things, as was mentioned, in those buckets, the last bucket, the infrastructure broadband bucket, seems to have less restrictions already around it, at least in the summary. So I know that HG&E has a survey out. I know that many of you and myself over the years have been pushing HG&E for home fiber. This could be a way to plug that gap that they see as part of the funding gap to bring home fiber to people who want to have it and cut the cord. So I think that hopefully that could be something that helps our schools, who hopefully never have to go back to remote learning, as the parents on this call know, but we know that, that is a possibility. Who knows what the future holds. And again, remote learning for some students is actually more advantageous. So we want to make sure we have a strong supportive infrastructure for remote learning. So again, that broadband could be key. And then the last two things I would say is that if we're going to talk about visioning and talk about the future of the city and talk about things that maybe we haven't been able to invest in, but should be, and when we want to look back 20 years from now and say, wow, we moved the needle. And I know I've talked to Councilor / Mayor Murphy on this as well. Staffing a business liaison / marketer for the city is critical. We have a tourism plan that we paid money for through the Casino Mitigation Fund, not city money. We have a great plan in place that cannot do anything with if there's not someone driving it. So creating a position that could really look at the marketing of the city, coordinating. As all of you know, if there's not one person behind those kind of initiatives, they don't go anywhere. So we have a lot. I feel like we have the pieces of the puzzle on the table. We just can't put them together. And so having someone who really focuses on that day to day could really be critical. And I think when you think about tourism and marketing, that helps all the small businesses, that helps our infrastructure of downtown, and it helps attract more businesses and more people to come into the city. So if we're talking about the recovery of downtown, as you know, I'm working on the Rapid Recovery Grant, which is looking at those exact initiatives. How do we get out of this pandemic? How do we bring people back to our businesses? How do we support those businesses that have either opened or survived through COVID, a lot of our small restaurants? This is a real opportunity to think about how do we make sure that we're supporting them in a real way and into the future. So I really hope that we can talk about a position that looks at marketing and tourism as a real aspect of the Holyoke economy. But again, I will be sending the letter and look forward to continuing the conversation.
It's great. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Councilor Murphy?
Yeah, I did, and I appreciate Aaron's comments. And I'm looking at a few things, that being one. Also, just a coordinator to make the permitting process as smooth and orderly. I mean, just the time delayed because we got too many places to go, and everybody can't. We need a place where they're going to be centrally dealt with. And I'm looking at this budget. I'm not sure I can do it, but when this money comes in, I am thinking that is something that would make sense. And I just think it would make it so much easier. That would be where they would come and they would talk about what they have. And these are all the permits. So these are where you're going to need them. I will help coordinate that with you. And then we go from there so that the process, maybe it's a 6-month process now. Maybe we can make it a 3-month. And that's 3 months more that we've got economic investment. 3 months more we got people working in jobs. So, and obviously paying taxes. So there's all kinds of benefits for it. I think it would more than pay for itself. And I appreciated it. All the people, all the departments that work on permits, I think all of them are in agreement that this is something that we need to do.
Great, thank you, Terry. Councilor LISI?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I fully support the idea of someone who's in charge of permitting and coordinating the permits across departments. Few years ago, I filed an order for an ombuds position who would do that sort of hand-holding. And, as Councilor Murphy is talking about not being able to fund it in our present budget, I think that with the money coming in, it presents a unique opportunity to fund the position, and then I think they could even work on streamlining the permitting process once it's, you know, centralized in that way. I do, however, hope that we're all on the same page that that position, the permitting coordinator, is separate and distinct from someone who would be doing marketing for the city. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think it's totally different skill sets, and so the business liaison. I don't know if that was who would in Mr. Vega, in your vision, it would be the one that's doing the marketing or the permitting, but I just think that it needs to be separate.
Absolutely separate. As you know, the other grant we're working on is the DLTA grant to look at that exact thing. We have a department head meeting in 2 weeks to talk about that, how we can start to look at process and look at streamlining and just general communication. But yeah, the marketing of the city and a tourism concept it would definitely be separate of that.
Great. Thank you so much for that clarification. Okay.
All right. Well, I see the last person, certainly not the least, Maria Pagan.
Hello.
Hey there, how are you?
Can you hear me?
We hear you, Maria.
Oh, okay. Okay, just talking about internet, I keep on getting my internet is not stable. So I don't know sometimes when people can hear me or not. So thank you for the opportunity. I did not send kind of a proposal because I am more concerned with what we experienced during this pandemic. And it's that as more and more areas of work and education move online, many families were left behind in getting connected to the internet. So the digital divide kind of was there, live and kicking. You can see so many families were left behind because they did not have either a stable connection with the internet or they did not have internet at all, especially family members in a shelter. The shelter does not provide internet service to the family living there. So they needed to find a place where they could get access to the internet for their students to be able to connect. So I think having some of this money help to cover for the broadband that the gas and electric is trying to get into the city, I think it would be great, a benefit for the community in general. The other area that I'm very interested in, that a study has shown that viruses and that cause respiratory illnesses, whether it's due to mold, to virus, allergies to different components, everything is due to the air that we breathe. So having a quality, the air inside, the indoor air be up to the standards that it's almost like being outside, it really needs to be taken care of. So my suggestion is to make sure that all city departments, which it kind of already started, but make sure that public buildings, schools, all the schools, including also the library and all the other departments, to really look into the system that really will purify the air system. So when people are inside, they will be safer. So those are kind of the two areas that I'm more concerned with. The digital divide. So it would be great if we could have the whole city be able to access internet without being not stable or not having it at all. And also the air quality indoors for all closed buildings and where it's used a lot. There's not just one or two people coming in and out, but sometimes we have 10, 20, 50, 100 visitors. It would be great if we could do in those two areas. That's it.
Anyone have any questions for Maria? And thank you, Maria. Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I commend you and the committee on doing this in Councilor Lisi's order. I think this was a great discussion, good steps towards what's to come. I just, you know, and we talked about this in finance, and I know we're going to talk about it more with Mayor Murphy, and I know we're waiting for the final guidelines to come down. And if it's going to be a block grant process, that's fine. But what we need to focus on is COVID has had an impact on the general budget itself, an impact that we don't fully know. COVID has had an impact on the state budget, and we don't know how that's going to impact us. I can tell you one thing, there's already a little writing on the wall. Unemployment insurance rates went up 5%, and we're self-insured in that, so we may not see that in the budget. But if we ever get in the position of having to lay off people, it's going to compound that situation too. But these are the little things that are coming down the road that we got to prepare for. And I think we have to look at the money that's coming in and how we can use it to where it will help with the budget itself. One example is we're facing a $1.3 million deficit in the sewer fund. That's an enterprise fund that's directly connected to the general budget, and DLS is looking, you know, to make us make up that deficit with the general budget itself. If that happens, that's going to be devastating to our budget. So these are the things that I think we have to keep in mind. There's a lot of wonderful proposals tonight, but we need to use these dollars to make sure we have a stable budget for the services that we provide and somehow make it go hand in hand together. But thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, a great meeting, and I enjoyed listening.
Yeah, it was a good meeting. Thank you so much, Councilor McGivern. It's good to have all these department heads with these different ideas. Quite frankly, I learned a lot of stuff from different department heads that I hadn't known. So I think that Councilor LISI, I think we should make a motion to table this because I think it's an ongoing conversation. So if somebody can entertain that motion. Anyone?
Motion to table.
Okay.
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I want to thank everybody that's still on the call. I want to thank all the counselors, and I also, once again, want to thank the department heads. And we learned a lot tonight. So having said all that, look forward to having another meeting on this. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Night, everybody. Thank you.
Second. Motion to adjourn.
Aye.
Okay. Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Night.